How do you conquer the most contested city on Earth without shedding a single drop of blood? Imagine a world where war was a meat grinder, where mercy was a foreign word, and cities fell in a torrent of slaughter. That was the medieval age, a time of brutal sieges and even more brutal aftermaths. But what if I told you there was one moment, one incredible leader who defied every single rule of this bloody era? Pulling off a conquest so bizarre, so psychologically cunning, and so shockingly merciful, it changed the very idea of honor in war. This isn't just about a battle, it's about the ultimate mind games. A daring bluff and a twist of fate no one, not even his enemies, could have ever predicted. Get ready to have your understanding of medieval warfare flipped on its head. Before the siege of Jerusalem even began, Saladin had already broken his enemies' will, not just their bodies. Picture this: the sweltering desert of Hattin, 1187. Crusader knights, clad in heavy armor, their mouths caked with dust, desperately searching for water under a blazing sun. Saladin, the legendary Muslim leader, knew their weakness. He didn't just cut off their access to water, he turned their thirst into a weapon. His troops would parade fresh water skins right in front of the dying, parched Crusaders. They'd even pour precious water directly onto the scorching sand, letting it soak away. A cruel, mocking display designed to shatter their spirits. It was psychological warfare on an unprecedented scale, literally driving men mad with thirst and despair before the first true swing of a sword. By the time the actual battle began, the Crusaders were already defeated, not by steel, but by a psychological torment that had left them broken, weak, and utterly hopeless. Saladin's victory at Hattin was decisive, but the true masterstroke was how he played with their minds, priming them for surrender long before the final clash. Now, with the Crusader army effectively wiped out, Saladin turned his gaze towards Jerusalem, the holiest city, the prize of generations. The year is 1187. The city was defended by Balian of Ibelin, a seasoned Crusader commander. But Balian was severely outmatched. He knew his forces were few, and the city's defenses were crumbling. Saladin, expecting a swift and bloody surrender, offered reasonable terms. But Balian, faced with certain defeat, pulled off one of the greatest bluffs in military history. He stared Saladin down and made an insane threat. If Saladin did not offer a peaceful surrender that allowed his people to leave unharmed, Balian swore he would execute every single Muslim prisoner within the city walls. And that wasn't all. He vowed to completely destroy the city's holiest sites, including the revered Dome of the Rock, ensuring that Saladin would conquer nothing but rubble and a graveyard of innocence. It was an unthinkable act, a desperate gamble, a threat so vile it seemed impossible, yet Balian uttered it with unwavering conviction. The pressure mounted. Saladin remembered the First Crusade back in 1099, when the Christian invaders massacred some 70,000 citizens of Jerusalem, bathing the streets in blood. He had every right, every justification to unleash the same brutal revenge. His commanders urged him to do it, to pay back the Crusaders in kind. But here's where the story takes an astonishing turn. Instead of unleashing hell, instead of taking his rightful vengeance, Saladin paused. He considered Balian's bluff. He weighed the horrific consequences of Balian's threat against his desire for justice. And then, against all expectations, against the very rules of medieval warfare, Saladin accepted the bluff. He agreed to let the Christians leave safely if they paid a ransom. It was a stunning act of restraint, a choice that confounded his own generals and shook the foundations of how wars were fought. But the twists weren't over. As the gates of Jerusalem opened, thousands of Christian citizens began to stream out. Many were wealthy and could afford their ransom, but countless others, the poor, the elderly, the sick, had nothing. They couldn't buy their freedom, and by the rules of engagement, they were doomed to be enslaved. Yet Saladin, the supposed ruthless conqueror, watched this unfolding tragedy with a heavy heart. He knew their plight. And then he did something truly extraordinary. He didn't just forgive their debts, he and his brother, al-Adil, reached into their own royal coffers and personally paid the ransom for thousands of their enemies. They literally bought the freedom of the very people they had just defeated, ensuring they could walk away as free individuals. It was an act of mercy so profound, so unexpected, it defied every single expectation of a medieval conquest. This single act of mercy, this bizarre confluence of psychological warfare, an outrageous bluff, and an emperor's profound compassion broke every medieval rule of engagement. Saladin became a legend, not just among his own people, but even among his bitter enemies in Europe. The chronicles of the Crusaders themselves praised his chivalry, his honor, his remarkable humanity. He didn't just win a battle, he changed the narrative of what a conqueror could be. He shifted the very perception of honor and mercy on the battlefield, creating a legacy that echoed for centuries and reshaped how military leaders viewed their role, even in times of war. If you were Saladin, after the massacre of 1099, would you have taken revenge or paid for your enemy's freedom? Please give me your thought on the comment section. Thanks for watching this video, and don't forget to subscribe.